Hello, welcome to this Facebook Live event as the Dumpty Dums go out on tonight's episode. I'm here, my name's Angela Barnes, I should introduce myself first. I'm a stand-up comedian and massive Archers geek, so it's my great pleasure. I say pleasure, it is a pleasure to meet you. This is Timothy Watson, who plays Rob Titchener. Hello, Timothy.
Hi,
how are you doing?
Good evening. Hi.
Good, and it is a pleasure to meet you, but obviously the character that you play, Mr. Rob Titchener, quite the villain. We've just listened there to tonight's episode as it's gone out with all of you listening at home, and that could be it. She's done it. She stood up to him.
Yeah, and I imagine there's cheering up and down the country even as we speak.
I imagine there are. Because, a couple of weeks ago we heard that he'd gone and the flat was empty and all of that, and we thought he's not gone, has he? Because there was no way he was going to go quietly, was there?
No, I guess not. I mean, that's... you have to congratulate the script writers for that. It's it's one of the great things of storytelling is to keep people on the edge of their seats, and I think he was never just going to sort of disappear, get fired, and say it's a fair cop and go.
Absolutely.
So.
Great. Well, we're here. We're live in this little Radio 4 studio here at Broadcasting House, and we've got Hannah. Hannah's with us. You'll be able to hear Hannah, the voice of Facebook. Are you there, Hannah?
Hello.
Hello. So Hannah, she is indeed, and she's on Facebook right now looking at all your comments. So please do, if you've got any questions for Tim, please do write in the comments section on the Facebook page, and Hannah will feed those questions to us, and we'll put them straight to Tim for you. Have we got anything coming in, Hannah?
Yeah, we can kick off. Let's start with quite a big question from Sharon Davis. Tim, did you have any idea when you started playing Rob that the character would turn into one of the most loathed in its history?
Good question.
No. No is the answer. I mean, when I started work on it, there were certain aspects of his character that were fairly apparent to me from the word go. He had the traits of a sort of narcissistic personality, which I picked up on very quickly, and but in terms of did I know that he was going to develop into an abusing character, a psychopath? No, I didn't, and that was one of the things that happened during the course of the first couple of years. The direction that the story moved in was wonderfully crafted, I think, by the writers, and made complete sense. It didn't. At no point did I think to myself, "This is, I can't quite get my head around where this is going." And it seemed to be a very, very natural arc for the character development.
At that point, when that character development was suggested, that's the way that Rob Titchener would go, were you consulted on that, or was it just a kind of? I think it's. I think there's an interesting process that happens, particularly in a continuing drama or soap. That there is a sort of two-way process. When Rob Titchener was introduced, on one level, it was just because there was this storyline of the mega dairy. Barrow Farm was introduced because it was a very important agricultural subject that the programme, to its credit, wanted to deal with, and they needed somebody with the right credentials to run that, and it's not a very widespread thing in this country, so they looked to Canada, where it is more so, and invented this character. Tim Stimpson was the key player in that, who was a UK-based farmer but had been running a mega dairy in this managerial capacity in Canada, so it made sense to hire somebody like that. So that was on purely practical terms why he was introduced into the programme. But I did know at the beginning that there would be a relationship with Helen that would happen. And I now can't remember the question because I was remembering. It was a good answer. It was just how much you were consulted in that process.
Of course. What I'm saying is that there is a certain storyboard in place, but you bring, obviously the actor brings something to the role, of which the writers can subsequently feed, and there is a sort of two-way process, a rather wonderful two-way process that begins, and so. I think we sort of work together to a certain extent on it.
Right. So it wouldn't have. I guess what I'm asking is if you'd known the direction that Rob Titchener was going to take, and it being, to the extent that it was, the domestic abuse storyline, would that have affected your decision, do you think, to have taken the role?
No, not at all. I mean, I've never thought of him as a villain in inverted commas. There is the old cliche about the villains being the most fun to play, and that is there is some truth in that. But I don't think of him as villain, because I think that undermines the whole sort of complexity of the process. What I think of him as a very, very fascinating and complex character who commits and has committed a whole series of heinous, wicked things. But to just sort of call him villain, that isn't sort of. I've never really thought of him like that. So I mean, if somebody had said, we're inventing this character who's going to go on to do this, this, and this, and this, I would say, what a fascinating job for an actor to bring that and try and make it a believable.
Yeah, I guess something that complex
character
is something for you to really get your teeth into,
Absolutely,
isn't it? As an actor, of course.
absolutely.
Yeah, and the whole thing of being a narcissistic personality that's must be quite thrilling to play.
It is. It is, absolutely. I mean, there's a huge spectrum of narcissism, and he is right at the very top of it.
Absolutely.
That's a very sad fact, because as we've known and as we've come to discover through the process of telling this story and all the research that's been conducted by the programme, and all the subsequent press that there has been surrounding it, it is such a tragically widespread problem, and these people are out there in vast numbers, and that's that's been a very extraordinary thing to be.
And I imagine
made aware of.
there'll be people who have been listening to the Archers, and if just one person has recognised those traits in somebody and been able to help them, then that's a powerful thing.
Even if it were just one, but the staggering thing is it's been in their hundreds and thousands.
Absolutely.
We've got a comment actually from someone saying, because of this story, I helped my sister leave an abusive relationship I hadn't realised she was in.
Yeah.
That's incredibly powerful for a soap opera, isn't it?
Lots of people congratulating him on playing Rob, portraying him so brilliantly. A few people asking particularly about when it comes to your voice. Tilly Vasher asks, how on earth do you manage to get that particular tone of voice so perfectly spine-chillingly balanced? It would have been so easy to overplay or underplay that narcissistic, controlling type of character.
I think that's very nice. The thing about the microphone is that it doesn't take any prisoners. You can't hide, and so it's you have to be very, very, very respectful of it, but also it can be your friend, and a bit like the camera can, it finds out every single little flaw. It gives you the opportunity for considerable naturalism, and Rob Titchener managed to inveigle his way into the community and hoodwink so many people for so long by being on many levels. Sounds extraordinary to say now, particularly after that episode, but on so many levels it seemed the answer to Helen's dreams.
He was charming from the off. He was a charming character.
I mean, if he wasn't, he wouldn't have lasted 5 minutes, would he?
Absolutely. And as you say, with Helen, particularly with that character and the luck that she'd had with previous relationships, I think even though Rob Titchener was married when he first came along, I think there was hope at that first point when they got together that maybe this could.
Yeah, I mean, again, it was never going to be easy, and those sort of the relationships that are sort of fought for and won against the odds are often the ones that are the most meaningful and long-lasting, in storytelling. And so I'm sure lots of people, I mean, for a good 18 months, people would come up to me and say, I haven't quite made up my mind about you. Because we call them good Rob, bad Rob episodes, and he'd say something where everybody would say, that thing you said the other night, I just thought, that's really worrying. And then there'd be a couple of weeks where he was just charming, helpful, loving, particularly, very caring and nurturing of Henry. And
And it's like you were saying, that's where he wasn't a pantomime villain, was he? He didn't come in as the baddie.
No.
You know, and that speaks a lot, I think, for the writers and yourself in being able to portray all those sides of him.
I mean, I think Rob Titchener believes absolutely in the love that he feels for Helen and for their children. Well, I say Henry and their son. So you know that there's no lack of sincerity in that sense, and for a lot of the time in their day-to-day life, he would express that and feel it. You know, so.
Yeah, we have a question from Val Mainwood saying, do you think Rob ever had any altruistic moments of love for Henry?
Yes, I do. Yeah, it's a very good question. I absolutely do. I don't think... I mean, there's a whole huge area to be explored, possibly. One day, who knows, about where Rob Titchener came from, in inverted commas, and how it came about. And I'm sure there are all sorts of alarm bells about what could subsequently happen to Henry if he were to continue playing, and Jack, of course, continue to play a significant part in their lives. But I absolutely don't doubt that he, you know, when he says a very tearful goodbye to Henry at the end of, I think, of last night's episode, he may have been crying significantly for himself, but he, wherever he goes to, he will miss Henry hugely. I
did get that feeling with Rob, actually, that the lies aren't always... He believes them.
Oh, when he's lying in court, I made a decision to play that for real. I don't think it wasn't some extraordinary construct. He believed everything that he was saying. I mean, that's the depth of the delusion, if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hannah, my mic's not working very well, so if you could just...
I'll repeat the questions. I'm sorry, if you couldn't hear the questions that Hannah was saying, I'll repeat the questions as you ask them, Hannah. So what have we got coming in?
Okay, so Victoria Pepper asks, hearing you play Rob has changed my life. Has it changed yours?
So Victoria Pepper has asked, hearing you play Rob has changed her life. Has it changed yours?
Wow.
That's quite a statement from a listener.
Yes. Well, yeah, because I've learned to... It's changed my life on a simple level, in that I've spent 4 years working on one of the most wonderful programmes that is made in any media. Being part of the Archers is something I'm so incredibly proud of. It sounds trite, but it is the most gorgeous community, family of people. Actors always saying those things. I know how irritating it is when they are, but it's true. I was welcomed, and you know, we don't know what's going to happen to Rob, but you know, I'm keeping my fingers crossed that at some point, in some guise, he may return, just so that I can hook up with those people. It's been an amazing journey the last 4 years, particularly the last 2, since the sort of tension in the storyline ramped up so significantly. But and I've learned a huge amount about a subject which I freely admit I knew very, very little about, and that has been a life-changing experience.
Yes, I think Hannah's got another question relating to this.
Yeah, well, no, just to follow up on that, Kate Chandler asks, what was your favourite scene to record?
That's Kate Chandler asks, what's your favourite scene to record? So many deep and meaty scenes to choose from.
Oh, gosh. Yeah, I mean... there was a scene. All right, I'll pick a couple. There was a scene quite early on when one of the scenes. I don't know if anybody remember this, but there was a party before when he had got back with Jess after the initial breakdown of the relationship with Helen, and Jess had moved into the village for a little while, and Rob was dealing with it particularly badly, and she'd organised a party, and there was a whole fish on a platter which ended up on the floor. And so the doing of that was just one of the joys of how radio is made, was fun. How do you make that happen believably? But
can you tell us?
Well, it was involved, I think, probably a sort of sodden towel on probably something that I forget, down to the skill of whoever was on spot that day. But I got to walk up the stairs, and we very rarely get to walk up the stairs. when there's a set of stairs with different types of tread on it, depending on the nature of the stairs, carpet or wood or stone. And I got to walk up the stairs, and I got to say, I don't want to be in bloody Ambridge. Am I allowed to say? Is that all right?
I think that's all right.
Is that all right?
Yep, we've got the okay.
And it was a bit of a key thing in The Archers because profanities are rare, to say the least. And so I got to swear and walk up the stairs simultaneously. So that was quite a big. And lots of people say I've been in The Archers for 25 years and I haven't walked up those stairs.
All sworn.
Yeah, all sworn. Yeah. But of course the big climax of the story that resulted in the stabbing in Blossom Hill was a major thing, and Louisa and I had quite a time recording that.
And how? I mean, in terms of presumably you and Louisa you worked with most. After a scene like that, what do you do? You know, do you just go and have a cup of tea and forget it? Do you have to sit down and sort of?
Yeah, you sort of. I mean, again, this sounds a bit trite, but I think part of my job, I've always thought, is to remember that any scene, whether you're talking about the Flower and Produce show or whether it's about trying to deal with being, having a domestic abuse scenario and getting stabbed and all that sort of thing, they're all as important as each other, and to just take the script and go into the studio and say to yourself, it's just another scene, and when you finish it, you put the paper in the recycling bin and move on to the next one. That's key to me trying to keep it real. Of
course, Hannah.
While we're on the topic of the stabbing moment, we've had a few people ask if Tim really likes tuna in real life.
Okay, so this is a question, just in case you can't hear Hannah on the mic. This is several people have asked this, Tim, whether in real life you like tuna bake.
I can't stand it. No, genuinely, I don't like tuna. But the reason for that is that I'm vegetarian, so I don't eat fish of any sort. So
where do you stand on custard?
Actually, I really like custard. I was telling my daughter the other day about cold custard when it's been in the fridge, and
it's get a little skin on it.
Yeah, lovely. Yeah, she thought I was insane.
And were you an Archers fan before you joined the Archers?
Yeah.
So you grew up.
I mean, I couldn't claim to have been a sort of religious follower, but the wonderful thing about the Archers is that you can dip into it and out as time allows. Being an actor, quite often 7 o'clock these days, you've got no excuse because of catch up and podcasts and everything, but until relatively recently, if you weren't listening at 7 o'clock, it was very difficult to follow, or 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And if you're doing a show, that's not always the easiest thing. But I had a considerable handle on it and was a big fan of it. So, and I'd often do other radio drama at Birmingham.
Right.
Drama department, sadly, no longer there, apart from Homefront and the Archers. But I'd go and sit in the green room and think, this is where the Archers is made.
And did you have a particular character that you were excited that you actually got to have scenes with?
Very early on, I did a scene with Linda. And it was about the bat. She was very activated about the badger cull and something that David was suspected of doing. And I just arrived in the village, and she grabbed me and said, "I want your opinion on this." And I remember standing there at the mic doing a duologue with Linda, Rob Titchener and Linda Snell standing there, and I thought I really am in the Archers because she does such a fantastic job. And to
be told off by Linda Snell.
To be told off by Linda Snell it was just thought I have arrived. I'm in this show.
Because it must be, because obviously it being an audio medium, you don't have that thing where you get recognised walking down the street, but presumably. I mean, I'm pretty sure that if Linda Snell, I could hear her from a distance and I would know that was Linda Snell.
Well, she doesn't sound anything like that, of course.
Have you been recognised by your voice?
Well, somebody was saying just before we started, I was doing a voiceover and something, and somebody thought, "Oh, that sounds like Rob Titchener," which is I'm a little bit worried because I was trying to be somebody else. Yeah, I mean, I think there has been, a lot of coverage of this storyline, so there has been a bit more recognition than this is a whole other subject. I don't know whether we can deal with this, but I mean, this is the thing about radio drama is so brilliant, is the fact that the audience investment in it is such a crucial part of the process. It's like reading your favourite book.
Absolutely.
And you do half the work. You create the scenescape, the characters in your head, And it's why you go and see the film of your favourite book and you invariably hate it because it doesn't look how you imagined it. And radio drama, Ambridge, you know, there are 5 million listeners of The Archers, and there are 5 million different Ambridges, and all those people have all their versions of how what it looks like inside the Bull, or what all the different places are. You know, what Jenny's kitchen looks like now that it's been done up, and all of those sorts of things. Everybody has their own version of it, and I've forgotten again what the question was. Where were we?
Or just about your voice being recognised.
Oh yeah, there is a bit there, not particularly. You know, I do stand sometimes in the queue at supermarket after school drop off, and you see one or two people look round and say that's a familiar voice. But in the same way as if you're a famous face off the telly, people will come up to you and say, I know you. Where do I know you from? Thinking it's a friend, because it's out of context, and you know.
Of course.
Judith Salmon actually asked, do you get negative or positive responses?
Do you get negative or positive responses from the public?
Very positive, because there was some stuff early on that all went one direction because of one particular thing that was written in one paper about me getting shouted at in the street and everything, which is all nonsense. 99 times out of 100 people are very positive and very complimentary about them.
Well, I think generally people understand, the concept of an actor playing a part, and
one would hope so.
And even if you hate the character, you can appreciate, a good actor playing a role well, which is what we've been enjoying.
Yeah.
And it's quite exciting what you're talking about there about, I've been an Archers fan for as long as I can remember, and exactly what you say, you build up these pictures of people, and you're the first Archers character actor that I've met. And it is quite interesting because you don't look like Rob Titchener.
Good.
You sound like him.
Good. I sound like him.
But you don't look like him.
Yeah.
And there's part of you that sort of goes, I want to meet these people and find out more, and another part of me going, I'd quite like to not, because now will that change how I hear Rob Titchener?
Well, we were saying, there was a time when, pre-internet, when there is no credit roll in The Archers. There are no faces, actors' faces. It is quite an anonymous thing. But now there's there's huge website following and actors with biogs and information. It's all out there to find out if you want to. And there are lots of people who say, I don't want to know. I do not want to know what they look like. And interestingly, people always talk about character in the way that if it was a TV soap, you might find reference to the actors slightly more. And I think that's a wonderful thing, because it keeps it keeps that level of it keeps the fiction alive in people's minds.
Absolutely. Hannah, what have we got coming in now?
We've got a question from Helen Stewart. She asks, what advice would you give Rob?
So this is from Helen Stewart. What advice would you give to Rob?
Well, I would hope for his sake that he will seek help.
Yeah.
If there's one thing I've learnt in this process, is that there's a question, it seems to me, that's asked a lot in the area of domestic abuse, which is, why did she, or indeed he, stay for as long as they did? And a question that's asked rather less is, why did the abuse happen? And I would like to think that, whilst I completely understand and agree with the clamouring for Rob Titchener to get his comeuppance and be thrown in jail and be prosecuted for all the things he did, I think in the long term people like him need to be helped to find out why it is that they came to behave in the way that they did. And maybe somewhere down the line there's that exploration to be had, but seek help, because
otherwise behaviour just repeats.
Behaviour can repeat itself.
Absolutely.
And
who knows?
And invariably does, tragically.
And maybe that will be in Rob Titchener's future. Who knows? Maybe he'll come back a reformed character one day.
Who knows?
Tim, thank you so much for joining us today.
Really
it's been really good fun to chat to you. Thank you everyone for logging on and joining us, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.